My book, Material Space Theory: The Collapse of the Theories of Einstein, Bohr, and Maxwell, is now available worldwide on Amazon. You can find the direct link to purchase your formal copy in the video description and pinned in the first comment below. This work is not a philosophical essay or a collection of loose ideas. It is a complete, rigorous mathematical reconstruction of fundamental physics based entirely on deterministic continuum mechanics. Niels Bohr was wrong. Albert Einstein hijacked gravity with abstract geometry, but Niels Bohr was one of the most damaging figures in the history of science on the microscopic scale. His abstract, probabilistic Copenhagen interpretation hijacked quantum mechanics, replaced physical causality with mystical dice rolling, and completely blocked the natural physical development of physics for over a century. Institutional physics abandoned the search for a real physical substrate, forcing generations of students to accept the absurd dogma that nature is inherently non-local, non-deterministic, and mathematical rather than material. They told you fields are independent entities vibrating in nothingness. They told you particles exist in multiple places simultaneously. This institutional blockage ends today. We are replacing mathematical mysticism with solid engineering. The quantum wave function is not a probability ghost or a wave of mere information. In material space theory, it represents a real, physical, tangible oscillation of a continuous, compressible, and elastic physical medium called material space. To understand the origin of the Schrödinger equation, we must look below the quantum threshold into classical acoustics. A stable elementary particle is a localized, self-sustaining bound state of this medium, oscillating at its internal Compton frequency, which is directly proportional to its mass. Physical processes described by non-relativistic quantum mechanics involve frequencies much smaller than this massive Compton carrier. Therefore, we formally split the total physical field into a fast oscillating carrier wave and a slowly varying envelope modulation. When you substitute this slow envelope ansatz into the absolute classical wave equation of the medium, the derivative expansions yield a complex-looking hyperbolic structure. This is where the imaginary unit I emerges. In our model, I is not a mystical quantum primitive. It is a simple, classical, 90-degree mechanical phase shift between the displacement and velocity fields of the underlying space substrate. In the non-relativistic limit, the energy associated with the envelope's temporal variation is microscopic compared to its internal rest energy. Applying this strict slow envelope approximation allows us to completely drop the second-order time derivative. By shifting the baseline energy to subtract the constant rest mass contribution enforced by the medium, the classical wave equation drops its hyperbolicity and collapses exactly into the formal, parabolic Schrödinger equation. The mystery is gone. The Schrödinger equation is mathematically proven to be nothing more than the low-frequency effective envelope equation governing real, scalar mechanical waves within the absolute material substrate. To describe high-velocity relativistic phenomena, material space theory completely rejects Einsteinian spacetime, Lorentz invariance, and the abstract four-dimensional manifold. Instead, we return to absolute time and universal simultaneity via Tangerlini kinematics. Relativistic effects are not optical illusions of relative perspective between observers. They are real, physical, mechanical deformations of wave packets moving through the material medium. When a laboratory frame moves at an absolute velocity, v, relative to the resting material space, the space substrate physically flows past the observer, creating an absolute convective drift. Simultaneously, lengths along the axis of motion undergo physical mechanical contraction, which compresses the wave packets and sharpens the spatial gradient operators along that axis. Furthermore, because energy is redistributed to support translation through the medium, the internal Compton clock of the moving particle mechanically slows down. But a scalar perturbation is not enough to capture the full physical reality of matter. Material space is modeled as a micropolar Kosaret continuum. This means every point in space has not only translational coordinates, but independent rotational degrees of freedom. The medium can sustain longitudinal, shear, macroscopic vorticity, and intrinsic micro-rotation modes. A stable fermion is a synchronized bound state of these coexisting mechanical modes. The multi-component Dirac spinor is simply the minimal algebraic tool needed to track the phase relations and structural chirality of these underlying configurations. Intrinsic spin half is a topologically locked mechanical micro-rotation of the medium's wave pattern, where a full 4π spatial rotation is mechanically required to restore the entire elastic deformation to its initial state. Negative frequency solutions do not imply an unphysical Dirac sea. They represent phase-reversed oscillations where the structural chirality and local fluid flow are inverted. When we combine these Kosarat rotational modes under Tangerlini kinematics, the multi-component envelope equation yields exactly the free Tangerlini-Dirac equation, where the alpha and beta matrices represent the mechanical coupling of the medium's internal twist and shear states. This mechanical model becomes undeniably clear when we introduce electromagnetic fields. Material space theory rejects abstract gauge fields on empty manifolds. The vector potential A is physically identified as a specific localized microflow field of the material space, substrate itself, distinct from macroscopic gravitational flux. When an oscillatory excitation moves through a region with a non-zero microflow, its effective phase velocity is shifted via simple, classical Galilean convective addition. This physical convection naturally generates the formal gauge invariant minimal coupling operator in the slow envelope expansion. The scalar potential phi acts as a direct physical shift of the envelope's baseline oscillation frequency, rather than a component of a geometric four-vector. Applying these mechanical substitutions yields the complete relativistic envelope equation in an electromagnetic environment, written in a laboratory frame moving at an absolute velocity v. The Lorentz factor gamma acts as a physical compression coefficient, and the asymmetric drift term accounts for the real flow of space past the observer. Physics is reunited with physical reality. Subscribe to the channel now and check the description or the pinned comment to get your copy of Material Space Theory on Amazon. Right now, without any further commentary or voiceover, the screen will transition to the exact, formal mathematical equations and full derivations directly from the manuscript. Pause the video, analyze the tensors, and verify the absolute engineering and mathematical value of this theory for yourself. Subscribe to the channel now, and check the description or the pinned comment to get your copy of Material Space Theory on Amazon. Right now, without any further commentary, you will see the exact mathematical derivations directly from the book, so you can witness and verify their absolute engineering value for yourself.